The CGA Tour, a podcast about getting older. Now, Calvin Allen.
Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glenn Alexander. And on tonight's episode of the CGA Tour podcast, I'm joined by the one, the only, the Colton Davidson, as we're back again with more questions, more NFL questions.
Yeah.
Right, Colton? We got some stuff to talk about here, right?
Yeah, we got lots to talk about. It was an awesome, fun week of football. I'm really excited to talk with you about it.
Week one was great.
Mhm.
Not for all Chargers fans like myself. No. That was tough. That was a heartbreaking loss. I would say also Giants fans and Steelers fans would rather just forget the week happened. You know, I mean, just if you're a Giants fan, I feel bad for you. Wait all the way for Sunday night. You lost 40-0 to the Cowboys. I feel bad if you're also. I mean, if you're a Steelers fan, I also feel bad too because you couldn't score worth a darn, and you also couldn't stop really anybody worth a darn in the first quarter. You had 1 yard of rushing for a combined 200 yards of 1 yard total and a half for a combined total of 200 yards in the first quarter. So that was just fun for.
Have you seen that stat going around about the Steelers offense since Matt Canada took over? Have you seen that?
No. What's that one say?
So this is full credit to the Ringer podcast network stuff, but it's a stat going around that since Matt Canada has taken over, it's been like since 2018, 2019. The Steelers offense has not gotten once over 400 yards of total offense. So since he has been the head coach, since he's been the offensive coordinator, never once going over, 400 yards of offense. And in that time, in the same time frame, the NFL averages around 20-ish% of a team going over that. And like if you think about it, like the standard hallmark of, hey, did the running back have a good game? Is 100 yards rushing? Hey, the quarterback could have a good game. You would say, did he get over 300 yards passing? And there's your 400 yards. So that kind of tells you what has the Steelers been doing under Matt Canada. So whatever.
There were a lot of issues with League One, but a lot of good things to talk about too on that point. And we got set of topics here, so I'm just gonna list them off here for the listeners before we get started, just in case they want to know what the 6 ideas we got coming on here. Our biggest fantasy bust and boom, real life disappointed, real life impressed, and then most confident. We feel the most confident about this going forward in the NFL. Period. Very broad topic, and then also the unconfident level. Too. So I'm just going to go take it away here with this one. Biggest fantasy bust of the week. And to me, this is the biggest bust of you see the score of the game. The guy is on your team. You didn't watch the game, though. And you go, oh, he must have scored 80, right? Like you see the score. You go, oh, man, they won 40-0. Okay, how in the world did how many points did the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, whatever on that respective team score? 40-0. Well, Dak Prescott's the biggest fantasy bust, in my opinion, for this because he scored a whole 5 points in fantasy football, I believe, with 0 touchdowns. And that's going to be the biggest fantasy bust. Like, that is such a high expectation. If you went out to Sunday night dinner, then later on you're like in the cab. I don't know. Uber. Everyone takes Ubers now. I sound real old when I say cab. But, everyone takes Ubers and on the ride home, or, hey, you know what? Or the Lyfts as well, Uber or Lyft.
Yeah, Lyfts. Uber. Any rideshare company.
Any rideshare company. Sponsorships, come on in. We're ready. We're open. Not closing you out at all. No, just open doors. There, you're going, oh, Dak must have had 30 fantasy points or 20. Or you know what? He at least put up his projected like 15 to 20, right? Dallas Cowboys scored 40. Now, in ESPN Fantasy Football, the leagues, one of the leagues that I'm in /run/do whatever, it's a PPR league. Doesn't make any difference because of the quarterback here, but I'm just going to say Dak had 5. Like, that's not optimal and biggest bust, in my opinion, of the week. What about you? What was your think of the biggest bust here?
So I'm torn between two, and I think I'm going to go with the funnier of the two. So Calvin, do you know what range of picks did Drake London go? Like, what number of pick was he? Like, was he a top 10? Was he a top 5?
I'm going to say he's a top 20 to top 30 wide receiver.
So
he's not your wide receiver 1, no matter what. I mean,
I meant like actual NFL draft.
Oh, he was a top 10 pick, I believe, not too long ago, like 3 years ago.
He was drafted 8th overall in the 2022 NFL draft. How many catches did he have on Sunday?
0.
0.
0.
0. How many? And now Kyle Pitts. How many catches did he have on Sunday?
I'm gonna also say 0.
So whenever your quarterback has more catches than, so Kyle Pitts had 2 catches. But whenever your quarterback has more catches than your number 1 wide receiver, do you kind of think that something is wrong? So as somebody who had multiple Atlanta Falcons players on my roster in my Yahoo league, it was very disappointing that Drake London had 0 points, that Tyler Algier got more carries, more touches than the number 4 whatever pick that Bijan Robinson was, that they were all super excited about. That they had more, that it was just more. Oh, it's so frustrating. Arthur Smith sucks. I changed my league name. I changed my fantasy team name in my Yahoo league to Arthur Smith must be stopped, because it's just absolutely brutal what he does, and they keep winning. It makes no sense. But I think that's like my funny is that basically the biggest bust of the week is Arthur Smith, because none of his players were that relevant in fantasy this week. It was so annoying, but yet they still win. So nothing's going to change, and Desmond Ridder will be their quarterback until the end of time. So that's my take.
Or Marcus Mariota will come back out of whatever. I'm with you. What I don't understand about the Eagles, but about the Falcons, different bird, is that they have Tyler Algier, and then they go ahead and say, you know what? Not good enough. He set a record as a rookie for Falcons rushing record. He set the Falcons rookie rushing record last year. This year, Falcons have, I think, the 8th pick in the draft, and they go, but you know what? Doesn't hurt to have 2. Let's get another running back, even though you really only play 1 at a time. But Arthur Smith, he's telling us, hey, you know what? We could have Drake London. We could draft Kyle Pitts. We could draft whoever at wide receiver, tight end, etc. But we don't care about those positions. Our wide receivers and tight ends better get used to blocking, because we are running the football. And that's what they keep doing. Tyler Algier, like, he had 20 plus points. Kyle Pitts had 2 receptions, 44 yards. Like, that's nothing. I don't know how many times he's targeted, but there's just
I don't think there's very many targets. I'll look it up while you keep talking here.
Well, the Kyle Pitts hype is done. I listened to a ton of like preseason kind of podcasts, and I remember last year going, okay, you know what? I think the guy I'm going to buy into is Kyle Pitts. Going to buy into Kyle Pitts. All right, you know what? The Falcons are telling us what they're going to do. They drafted him at tight end, the highest tight end, like the earliest in the draft of tight end has ever been drafted, I believe. Based in the modern NFL era, a bunch of other stats, bunch of other information about it. Okay, I'm going to take Kyle Pitts here in the fantasy football draft, like right after Travis Kelce. Next time off the board, Kyle Pitts. Completely a dud. Just completely a dud last year.
Horrible.
Like just not getting a fair share of targets, receptions. Every single fantasy football expert I listened to or heard from was like, oh, they're going to have him at wide receiver. They're going to use him like Travis Kelce, etc. They have Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder at QB. They're not going to be throwing the ball downfield that much. That Drake London guy could get a couple targets and make some plays in empty space, but they're going to use Kyle Pitts. And this is almost the same thing now with Bijan Robinson. Bijan had a good game, but they're telling us something.
So what's just wild is his rookie season. So Calvin, do you know he almost broke the record for most receiving yards by a rookie tight end in the NFL history? Do you know who holds the record?
Antonio Gates.
No.
Travis Kelce.
No.
I mean, is it Gronk?
It's Mike Ditka.
Oh, okay. Cool. Good for Ditka.
Let me make sure I'm right.
Yeah.
Mike Ditka. He in 19. Oh gosh, what year did he do this in? Just guess. Just for fun.
85? Was he the coach of the Bears in 85? So yeah, I don't know. Goldeneye wasn't alive.
1961.
Yeah,
my dad wasn't alive. So.
Same.
Okay. Anyway, it's just like, so rookie year, he does like all these really promising things that bring in Marcus Mariota. And then, it's just been downhill from there. And then finally, like, he got put up, like everybody got able to release him halfway through the 2022 season whenever he got hurt. And then, somebody starts putting together all these highlight reels of like, hey, he was targeted quite a bit downfield. It's just they didn't have a quarterback that could get him the ball. And it kind of appears to be the same thing. In one of the pods I was listening to today, they were talking about like, hey, they tried to unleash Ritter a little bit today or on Sunday, and he immediately threw a horrible pass. And it was just like from then on, it was, okay, we're doing screens. Nothing's going past the line of scrimmage. We are not trusting you. We are going to win the game despite you. So it's just interesting. I don't know how much of this is a lot of it is probably more than what we want to say of it's the lack of trust in the quarterback situation. But you'd think at least for like a Drake London that they would do some wide receiver screens. They would try to get him on some jet sweeps. They would do something to generate their like top pick some touches, or their tight end. These guys that they put so much draft capital in. Because I'm just looking at the draft and on the board whenever they take Bijan Robinson, Jalen Carter's right there, Darnell Wright. Offensive tackle, Peter Skronsky, offensive tackle, Lucas Van Ness, a defensive end. Like all these guys are available, but they like went out of their way to go, no, we're going to draft Bijan Robinson. And then they give Tyler Algier more carries. And maybe they're just trying to work him in. I don't know. But that's just, for me, Arthur Smith, that's my biggest fantasy bust is anybody playing for him is just doomed.
I like it. Just period the Falcons. You never know what they're going to do. They have the multiple. It's like the new deal with, I think it was always like New England running back group. Like you knew the New England running back group was going to get some carries and get some touchdowns because they had Tom Brady as their quarterback. They're a high-powered offense. You always want to pick one of those guys, but it seemed like no matter what you did, you were always going to pick the wrong guy.
Exactly.
That was actually going to score in the game. You always picked the guy who was going to get like 1 30-yard rush, 2 other times he would carry the ball, and then that'd be it. The entire game. He'd end up with like 44 rushing yards, 3 carries, that'd be it. And then the other guy who'd come in and rotate with him would have, 6 passes out of the backfield caught and et cetera, et cetera. So we'll just be blowing up stat wise. I gotta say though, my biggest fantasy boom, not gonna shock anyone because I watched the entire game start to finish. Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, I watched the Chargers Dolphins game. Tyreek Hill, he's projected for 21 points in ESPN PPR. He ended up scoring 44. And I will say, watching that Chargers Dolphins game, he could have scored more. Like the Chargers weren't not covering him. They were doing their best to try to stay in front of Tyreek Hill and cover him and, put him in different play types against different corners and linebackers and DBs and safeties, etc. Just wasn't working out for him. So, Tyreek Hill is the biggest boom here. I don't think there's really, I don't know if you, who's your guy?
I was going to say Tyreek Hill. I had him actually, and he was the reason I won my game on Sunday in fantasy on my sleeper league. But he was amazing. I mean, some people were tweeting out like how they were getting him open and how well, and him and Tua were just cooking together. People were making the case is, hey, he might be the best. Why he is probably the best wide receiver in the NFL. I would still kind of lean Justin Jefferson is just the best pure wide receiver. He can do everything where Tyreek, like you don't always 100% trust Tyreek to just come down with it. You just trust him to be so open it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, no one's more scared of anybody than Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek Hill would be mine, but I'm going to go ahead and change it up. And Calvin, what was the highest scoring player this week in week 1?
Dallas Cowboys defense.
Yes. So I am
ready.
I'm playing in a league. Neither league that I'm playing in this year as playing defense / special teams because I just was like tired of dealing with getting negative points all the time. So I just didn't want to be a part of that. But the Dallas team was amazing. But I think and for people that don't want to talk about defense, that they were amazing and they got to play against Daniel Jones. But I think someone that like really surprised a lot of people, and I had him on my bench, Jordan Love. Just as especially in a 2-quarterback league where the quarterback is so much more important. Jordan Love had 23 points against like probably a mostly inept Chicago Bears defense, but still it was interesting without his number one wide receiver and then losing his number one running back halfway through the game. I believe they're also playing down a couple of offensive linemen and just got out there and he balled. 23 points is really good. It's pretty good for a quarterback. He outscored Justin Herbert, at least in my 2 leagues. The only other quarterback that I'm looking at here is Tua Tagovailoa. He only had a little bit better of a game, but Jordan Love, and I mean, if you haven't already gone out and tried to claim off waivers, you're probably not playing fantasy right. Go claim him right now. Because if you're thinking about the rest of that division, the Lions don't have a very good defense. Vikings are having a slightly improved defense, but not anything like great. And then the Bears suck. So it's just like there's your next few games. There's a bunch of games, most of the schedule right there, and he's going to be able to tear it up. And so he might be a league winner if you can go grab him off of waivers today. So that's my biggest winner. Is we'll go with Jordan Love because defenses aren't always that interesting to talk about in fantasy.
That sounds good. I mean, I think that Dallas Cowboys defense, that's like incredible what they did to the Giants, because also looking like Tony Pollard had 22 points, but the Cowboys scored 40. There's just, you figure there would be, CeeDee Lamb scored like 20. There's not one guy who had like Tyreek Hill and like double the projection. Is what I'd get at. And that's what's bizarre to me, except for the defense. Of course, Dallas Cowboys defense, they scored so many points. All right, so let's move on to the real life disappointed first. Real life disappointed. We'll leave the impressions here for a second. Disappointed. Okay. I'll ask you this. I'll ask you first, so I don't steal yours. Who you got real life disappointed? Who you picking here?
I think Lamar. I know they ended up winning against the Texans, but going into it, there's a lot of like context. Me and you talked about in our last pod about, I believe that Lamar had a lot more pressure than say Justin Herbert. Let me try to guide my thoughts for a second. Yeah. So Lamar basically thought there was a lot more pressure on Lamar than there was just Justin Herbert. And going into it because, he demanded a new coach. He demanded, better weapons and and they're running a new offense and all these things. Got one of the fastest contracts in NFL history until Joe Burrow signed his last Saturday. All of these things went nuts. And he gets to go out and does it. He scored a whopping 6 fantasy points. He had multiple turnovers. From what I didn't get to watch this game, but from what I've been understanding, the way people have talked about it, he looked really, really rusty. And he did come out afterwards and say, hey, I'm going to do better. This is not acceptable. So, he said the right things, did the right things going forward. And I do wonder how much of it is new offense playing a really well-coached defense is what it sounds like in DeMeco Ryans, that's how you pronounce it. Yeah. So a really, really well-coached defense with a top 3 pick in the NFL draft and Will Anderson from Alabama. They came to play and they probably caught them off guard. And they also had a devastating season-ending injury for J.K. Dobbins. So there's a lot going into it, but still it's just like, come on, Lamar, you got to be better than this after demanding all of these things in the offseason.
I'm totally with you. I want to ask you, because I looked up some stats about this game here, the Texans-Ravens. Which team had more yards, if you had to guess, and by how many?
Because I think it's like the wrong way. I'm going to say that the Texans probably had more yards. I'm going to say they had like 112 more yards.
They had 3 more yards. That's why I bring it up. It was that close. It was 268 to 265. But that just also means that something's off here. That the Ravens win 25-9. I think the Texans are just going to show up. Like they're going to. You're right. They have a really good defense, but they're just going to show up. Like the Texans are going to show up every week. They're not going to be a rollover team that AFC South. I was not real life impressed by them. They did fine. But I think what you're saying is correct here. I was real life unimpressed, real life depressed by this team because you would expect Lamar. You expect a lot of these quarterbacks. I think every quarterback, all the top 4 quarterbacks who got new deals this past offseason, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow.
Deshaun Watson,
All
5.
and Deshaun Watson. Well, but if I don't include Deshaun, then they're 0-4 on the weekend. So, and if I do include Deshaun, he got his last year. I want to say,
you're right. That's not really fitting your argument.
Yeah, but that's the argument I'm making here. I totally agree. You would think the Ravens would be doing just killer at the end of the day, but they're at home. They took care of business. They won by 14. I don't know if they covered the spread. I'd assume they covered the spread. I can't imagine an NFL spread more than 14 points. I would say I'm real life unimpressed or depressed by Seattle Seahawks.
Ooh, that was a big one.
This is a team where we talked about last week on our 10 questions. Are the Rams even going to try to win? Are they even going to try to be good? Are they going to try to trot some guys out there? Okay, Cooper Kupp's on IR, like to start the season. Comes out, before the game kicks off. All right, well, okay. So what's Matthew Stafford going to do? Who are his weapons going to be? Still finds guys, like no matter what. Still has really, really good stats in the game. I mean, he puts up over 300 passing yards, and then rushing the football like Cam Akers and Kyron Williams, two guys who I know their names, but not like their household names whatsoever. Go in, score 3 TDs, rushing it. And then they've got a guy, Puka Nacua, I think is how you say it, who has 10 receptions, 120 yards, 119 exact. Like the Rams still found a way to win, but this was much more to me of, okay, but like what happened here? Because it's just such an odd deal that the Seattle Seahawks team, where Geno Smith and others, I really thought they had a good chance. And Geno, listen, he didn't play horribly. He was 16-26 passing. He had 112 yards, 1 touchdown. But the rest of the team just did not show up at all. I mean, Kenneth Walker was just slowed. Zach Charbonnet slowed. Geno Smith, 1 rush, 6 yards. DJ Dallas, 2 rushes, 4 yards. Like, I can just keep going. TK Metcalf had the 1 touchdown reception. And that's what they did. It was just so odd to me that the Seahawks team that I thought would really have a good shot of getting back into the playoff picture this year, be out there, all that type of stuff, just did not really stand up at all in this game. Like, they didn't do anything at all against the Rams to go, oh, okay, well, all right, well, it's an off game for them, but they'll be okay. It wasn't a last-second score. It wasn't anything like that. Just 30-13, Sean McVay and that Rams offense just took it to him. And the defense, held Geno Smith and a Seahawks team that is usually pretty good to 13 points at home in Lumen Field. Like, it's real life unimpressed by the Seattle Seahawks here for sure.
I was super impressed, and probably going forward, maybe the most worried about, because of the injuries on their offensive line that they had. And Geno Smith's just not a quarterback who's better equipped to handle losing an offensive line like that, because he's just not quite the same physical talent as somebody, obviously not like a Patrick Mahomes. He's not as shifty. He's not as raw fast as like a Lamar Jackson. Not as just manipulated the pocket like Tom Brady. But Goose.
It's interesting to me how that, like, the Seahawks team with Pete Carroll and Sean McVay, like, you can just never be for sure with the Seahawks team with Geno Smith. They don't have that guy. They don't have that running back, that wide receiver, definitely not that quarterback in Geno that I just love so much so that I'm picking them over anything else. I also have to say here is that my real life impressed here, just gotta say, I'm real life impressed by the Browns defense. Cleveland Browns defense. I could have picked that I'm unimpressed by the Bengals, but this is a road game. Joe Burrow's first game of the season. He doesn't play well in historically now. He's setting a trend with it. And he still was like 14-31 for 82 yards. Like, he wasn't horrific. He just wasn't good. And it was raining, it was poor weather, and et cetera, et cetera. And then he doesn't even play in the rest of the whole game because, like, okay, let's make sure to save him from injury, et cetera, et cetera. So this to me was much more of, okay, Bengals, not great, but shout to the Browns defense, because the other side of the football, Deshaun Watson didn't show up either. Like, it's not as though the Browns offense was just killing it the whole day. I mean, Watson had an interception. He didn't throw for 200 yards. Nick Chubb had 18 carries for 100 yards. Not like 200. There's just nothing really explodes off the page here. In that fact that, okay, the Browns just absolutely just demolished the Bengals here in this game, besides just holding the Bengals to like no offense. And this is a team, Jamar Chase is picked almost first or second overall in fantasy. So real impressed here by the Browns defense. Gotta say.
Yeah, and one of the most impressive things is that clip of Myles Garrett doing the crossover move in front of the center right before the snap. That was awesome. It was so awesome. The Browns defense was, we were getting like the live play updates. It's me and Sarah were watching the games on Sunday, and it just looked like a nasty game that the Browns kind of went in and they won in a way that I didn't think that they had it in them. It's really cool that they did what they did. So hats off. We'll kind of have to see if Deshaun Watson can pull together a competent or above average season. It's starting to get worrisome that it's probably not in him to ever be, the MVP candidate with Deshaun Watson anymore. But maybe some above average play is still there and still around, which is, not great for the Browns. But we'll see how they are going forward. That defense might be enough to win them a lot of games this year.
It might be, and it might need to, because Deshaun Watson still is looking pretty average here overall. But
right.
But could be good. What about you? Who was your real life impressed?
So it was the first game of the week. It's getting lost in a lot of everything that happened since then. I mean, we've had so much happen since last Thursday, so many injuries, so many different things going on. But like the Lions going into Arrowhead on a Thursday night, first game of the season, on top of all of it, they get the W. They go almost to the midway of the third quarter and they don't shoot themselves in the foot. That was the first penalty, was like the third quarter. It was a really clean game. Dan Campbell knew exactly when to gamble and probably shouldn't have gambled on that fourth down, that fake punt. I think 9 times out of 10 that doesn't work. And like 9 of those 10 times is done at like a Super Bowl or a playoff game. And the one time is week 1. But like, it's kind of, on one hand, you could say that was really, really stupid. But on the other hand, like, I'm sure the players absolutely loved it. And I'm sure that the players kind of like, it's this boost of, hey, coach trusts us to execute. And I know Jared Goff didn't really light the world on fire there. And then from the fantasy standpoint, a lot of people were upset with like how little Jahmyr Gibbs got used. But if you had David Montgomery, you got excited. But like, just as taking fantasy out of it, it just was a Lions team that I didn't think had that in them to hold a Patrick Mahomes level team and Andy Reid coach team to only 20 points in their home field off of a Super Bowl. I just think it's really cool. And yes, there are the caveats that Kelsey didn't play. Yes, Kadarius Toney might as well have been playing for the Lions on defense, but still, they still got out there and they still made all the plays they needed to, and they went out and they won the game. So I'm gonna still go with like the most real life impressed was the Lions.
All right, well, I think that's a great one. I can't disagree too much there. Yeah. What about least confident versus most confident? Like, how are you feeling here?
So least confident, I think, the Seahawks. It's really troublesome that they just didn't really show up. Their defense wasn't strong like we're kind of used to with Seattle, and I don't think the defense has been very good for a long time, not since the Legion of Boom era. I'm pretty worried about them. I'm pretty worried about the Vikings. Kind of had a rough go of it, and I was kind of really looking forward to getting to root for Kirk Cousins. And I've had Justin Jefferson on my fantasy team last year, and I just kind of like him. I like Kirk, and they kind of had a stinker of a showing against the Bucks. So I think the most worried about, let's go Seahawks, because I've kind of got a soft place in my heart for the Seahawks. My wife is from the Pacific Northwest. She grew up rooting for them. And then most confident going forward, the Dallas Cowboys have a good defense. Mike McCarthy, I'm not the biggest fan of. I think he's done some dumb things, but heck, they did not hurt themselves at all on Sunday night. And we didn't really get to see the offense do a whole lot, but they did what they needed to. They didn't have to do very much. So I think I'm pretty confident that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be a force in that NFC East this year. And they might really a Eagles team that may or may not have been as ready for the season as we thought they would be.
All right. Well, I think that's really good. I would say I'm the most confident here in Tua and the Dolphins.
That's a really good one.
Going back to that Chargers Dolphins game. Yeah, I did watch the whole thing. Weirdly enough, like in Oklahoma, area, we don't get that game.
Yeah, I know that's
like
kind of weird.
That was one of the bummers. It's like you got East Coast and West Coast all one game, but instead we got, of course, I think we ended up getting the Patriots Eagles, which go figure. But I just gotta say, like Tua Dolphins, as long as Tua's healthy, they're back. Like they just look like they haven't missed a step. It looks like they were tearing apart the Chargers defense, which isn't bad. Like the Chargers what I think is really getting lost about that game is that the Chargers, they let up a ton of points, they let up a ton of yards, but like it's just the Dolphins were crazy good. Like Mike McDaniels and that offense, that's a juggernaut of an offense. I mean, the Chargers are going to have to, and the Chargers play the Dolphins 6 more times. I'm not sure who wins, or 10 more times, whatever the deal is. Whereas, with the Dolphins, like they're on cloud 9 here, and they should be. They should be power ranking number 1 because they beat a Chargers defense that didn't make a ton of errors, that really played straight up football, that Tua just dropped the ball into Tyreek Hill, perfectly in the end zone, and then also hit him perfectly when he was wide open. Like the Chargers defense wasn't making a bunch of gaffes or errors at all.
Well,
and the offense wasn't playing horribly either, and they were staying with the Dolphins the whole game.
Yeah, so one of the big questions I had heard going into this season was this Mike McDaniel's offense just a one hit wonder? Was this going to be something that he could improve upon? Is this something that, like, okay, we've got a whole 17 games worth of film on, hey, this is what, or actually 18 games because they played the playoffs. Hey, we got all this film on them now. Like we know kind of how this engine works. We know how to stop them, and we get out there, and the head coach of the Chargers is known as like one of the innovators on defense. Like if anybody's going to slow him down, and the only team to slow him down last year with a healthy Tua was the Chargers defense. It's like that was a really good test to start off with, and I felt like Mike McDaniel's had like 7 new answers on how to get Tyreek just inexplicably open. And it's like there's a couple of I sent you a tweet that I saw of like, hey, this is where Tyreek is going to go. This is where the ball's going to hit, and this is where Tyreek is going to be. And it's just like 20 yards of open space in front of him. It's just absolutely amazing what he can do.
I mean, the biggest deal I would say is like Tua just having the timing with Tyreek Hill, because that I cannot imagine timing. One, I mean, I'm not a football player, but I just cannot imagine, like timing a pass perfectly when a guy is 5 feet from me and trying to bounce it to him as he, is making a cut inside down the lane and pick up hoops, right?
Yeah,
like we were trying to do this weekend. I just can't imagine going, okay, Tyreek Hill is 20 yards behind this ball, but the second I launch it, he's gonna have ran 40 yards by the time it gets to him. So that type of stuff, I think, is it's crazy good. But the unconfidence meter here is, I could take the easy answer and I could say the Jets. I could say, oh, I'm really unconfident in the Jets, but everyone knows that here today because Aaron Rodgers out for the season. Jets, who knows what they're going to do at quarterback? Are they going to stay with Zach Wilson? I would guess. I don't know who else is out there necessarily. Maybe like a Matt Ryan comes out of the booth. RG3 was on one of the ESPN shows today saying, well, they could play me, but I'm too big of a distraction. And I was like, well, I mean, there's always a threshold. You're not calling Kaepernick level of a distraction. You're not like Tom Brady level distraction. You're RG3. So like, how much of a distraction are you really? But anyways, besides him trying to plead his case, I'm really unconfident in the Buffalo Bills. Like that was a horrible Monday night game. That was one that they should have just gone, oh, okay, you got Zach Wilson in, Aaron Rodgers is out. Every bit of this whole stadium has been deflated with, just absolutely all of the positive mojo, the number 8 jerseys, Aaron Rodgers' new number, all over the, field. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a second. Is Zach Wilson going to win this game? And he didn't, for the record, did not win the game. I'd say the Jets special teams player who's an undrafted rookie, he won the game for him.
Yeah.
Because it was 16-16 heading to overtime. But man, Josh Allen looked just as good as Zach Wilson, and that is not where you want to see the Buffalo Bills. I've listened to so many of the Ringer podcasts. I think that's where we say as well too. And almost all of them, it's like, so tell me why the Bills are going to be good. And it's like, well, because let's look at it. They have Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Look at the 10 wins. They got Josh Allen. After last night, I got to say, I don't see it. Maybe Brian Daboll was just like the Josh Allen guru. And then I know he wasn't with them last season, but it just, he's able to keep going. Josh Allen was for one more season, or just something horrific happened last night to Josh Allen. But see, I mean, he threw three picks last night, all three to the same dude. So someone's got to explain the Buffalo Bills to me.
Yeah, so
I feel so unconfident in them.
So it's the Buffalo Bills. Last year, they had a really, really good. They had I think the second best offense in the league, despite it just kind of looking hard. And then this year, it's kind of like someone I listened to today was saying the best attribute of Josh Allen is he plays every down of football like it's the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl with the game on the line. And then also that's the absolute worst thing about Josh Allen. There's that clip going around on Twitter right now of him lunging for a first down. He's 6 yards away from it. And it's the opening drive of the quarter. It's this just isn't the time and place to be recklessly throwing your body around. So there's so much basically. I'm starting off with that point of it doesn't seem like Josh Allen is aware enough. I'll go and look at. Did you watch any of the Eagles game?
A little. I mean, honestly, the way to watch the Chargers game was to watch NFL Red Zone. So they were just cutting back and forth through that Eagles game. So I saw the end of it. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, there was 3 to 5 plays where it was a designed run for Jalen Hurts, and he takes off and he gets to the line of scrimmage. And you can sitting there on the TV, even my wife could go, oh, he doesn't have any space to do anything. And he just falls. He safely falls. He knows I'm not risking my body in the first week of this season for a play that's not going to do anything. And he did that. It didn't look like cowardly. It didn't look stupid. It looked like safe, smart decision-making. Cause if you think back, he missed 2-3 games at the end of the year and then came back and just could not hit that deep ball until the Super Bowl whenever he kind of got his arm limbered back up and finally got going. And it's maybe if his arm is 5% better, they win the Super Bowl. I don't want to make that argument, but just saying the approach to the season and Jalen versus a Josh Allen. Josh Allen just is not approaching things smartly. He's not taking the right risks. He's basically trying to he's trying to Russell Westbrook it, where he's trying to hero ball and be the Sports Center highlight that week of making this amazing play and throw. And it's just if they're going to get that Josh Allen, then the Buffalo Bills are in big time trouble for this year because it's a depleted team. They're not as good on defense this year. They're not as good on offense this year. It's just it's a team that is really it lives or dies with Josh Allen.
Yeah, I got to say when you have more yards than the team in a game and you still lose, that's what hurts the most. I always love mentioning the yardage because you'd figure yardage would correlate completely with score.
Yeah. In
this game, yardage is basically the score because both the teams went to overtime and the Bills had 314 to the Jets 289. We're 25 yards is not the end of the world. So basically they had the same amount of yardage. And the key difference here is the Jets are just overall able to get it to overtime and then able to hit that one big play. I mean, this game probably should have ended in a tie, but I also think that if you told me several things about this game last night. You could have said, hey, Aaron Rodgers is injured on the fourth play he has under center. Who wins? I've been oh, the Jets do not win this game.
No, there's no way.
They don't get it to overtime. They lose by 60. It's worse than the game the night before with the Giants Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you tell me Josh Allen's going to throw 3 picks and Aaron Rodgers only plays 4 downs, okay. Well, what happened? I'm with you because it is okay. You know what, Josh Allen? I don't know what the record is for how many pass attempts he's had in a game, but I got to say, when he's dropping back to throw the ball 41 times. And then he also is their second leading rusher on the night. That's concerning. Now, granted, he only rushed the ball 6 times, but some of those are designed runs, or just his ability to be, 6'12" or whatever he is. I mean, I think he's really 6'5", and be able just to run over guys it's good. I mean, basically got I'm not going to say he's Derrick Henry, but he's Derrick Henry in size.
Yeah.
He's huge, and he's able to run decently fast enough and able to do much and everything. He's also 3 years younger than me, so shout out to Josh Allen for already making it big in this world. But it's just yeah.
So it's just if you think about it, hey, how does the head coach going, Josh? Look, they have the worst quarterback in the league starting right now. They have nothing going for them on offense other than maybe handing it off to Breece Hall. I just need you to make the correct play, and if a deep shot is not there, do not take it. Just take the sack, throw it away. Just play smart football, and the Bills win that game 10 times out of 10. So just with that in mind, if you're the Bills, how interested are you in trying to go get Jonathan Taylor? Just to give Josh Allen something. Just hey, you know what, Josh, you got too hot of a head. We're going to call 4 straight run plays. We're going to just hand it off, do a screen. We're going to do all of these little things. We're going to just try to give you some time to cool off so that you're not having to be Superman and handing it off to a Jonathan Taylor or something like that, because they're never going to have the draft capital to go get somebody like that while Josh Allen's at quarterback, or at least who we think Josh Allen is right now. They're never going to have a draft pick high enough to go get something like that. So this is kind of their only time to be able to do something. There's a galaxy brain take of just go get Jonathan Taylor real quick.
I mean, honestly, there are plenty teams that should, but if I'm the Eagles, I go get Jonathan Taylor. After this past week, we only beat the Pats by 5. And if I'm the Bills, I go get Jonathan Taylor. Does James Cook the guy? I mean, I don't know. Also, if I'm the Chargers, I go get Jonathan Taylor, because apparently Austin Eckler's dealing with some type of ankle injury here and Wednesday's practice. I am so annoyed by Aaron Rodgers getting hurt for the Jets, because I know so many Jets fans. We're going to see the Jets in prime time, I think 4 or 5 more times this season on standalone games. One of them is against the Chargers. Now, granted, on Monday night, so I'll make sure to be able to see it. But man, it is a little soul crushing here that we're going to see a lot of bad Jets football. Somebody's got to tell me that Matt Ryan is currently trying out for the Jets or something. There's got to be some type of Tom Brady just go, you know what, Patriots, I'm sorry we're in the same division as the Jets, but you know what? They made me an offer I couldn't refuse, which is they let me buy ownership in the Jets or something just crazy and going like that. I don't know.
So that is probably the craziest option for them to go at quarterback. That's probably their first call as a Tom Brady call. But then what are some, you just talked about Robert Griffin III. There's rumors of Colin Kaepernick's agents reached out. What other options are you thinking through right now for the Jets? Because it is a disservice to that defense and to that city to roll Zach Wilson out there for the next 17 weeks. It's just they can't be doing that.
All right,
There's
so
no
I got 3 fun ones for you.
Okay,
I want you to pick one of these 3. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me double check there that this is all still accurate, because I did see someone say Geno Smith, which he's not a free agent. So I want to make sure this article is still up to date here. Peyton Manning probably not going to be able to make it.
No.
I'm going to say no on the Peyton Manning, but I've got 3 for you. I've got Jacoby Brissett. Apparently with the Washington Commanders right now. Case Keenum. Cam Newton.
Cam Newton can't throw and hit the broadside of a barn. There's no way.
So not Cam.
Keenum. I'm trying to think of the last time we even saw him play.
He's the backup for the Bills. I don't think there's any way in this world that the Bills are let's give you the quarterback who we just lost to that team the night before.
Yeah,
and give the Jets aren't going to trade so much.
Brissett makes a lot of sense because he played for the Browns last year, correct? That was and he was like solid. And that's all they need is they just need a neutral quarterback, like a quarterback who's not going to lose the game for you, but he doesn't have to win it. All he has to do is hand it off to Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook, and then hit Derek Wilson or Garrett Wilson for an stride. Like that's all he has to do. So I don't know. This sucks. It sucks. I'm so glad I'm not a Jets fan.
Jameis Winston,
the most exciting quarterback in the NFL. Yeah,
Matt Ryan.
Man, Matt Ryan. I feel like everybody's really down on him last year, and like they were calling him cooked, and he's like. I just feel like the Colts last year were awful all around him, and he had no shot anyway. So maybe Matt Ryan would be okay.
Who's older, Blake Bortles or me? You have to guess right here, right now. Who's older, Blake Bortles or Calvin Alexander?
Bortles
by a year. So Blake Bortles, 31. What's he? What's he up to?
Yeah. Maybe
Nick
crushing
Foles?
it he might be crushing it in a beer league somewhere in Southern Florida.
He could. Nick Foles, I'm going to say no.
No.
There's not a chance. Same thing with Carson Wentz. No, I'm good.
So, Calvin, you've seen Arrested Development, right? Have you ever?
Yeah.
So, I feel like the Nick Foles thing, every team in the league has gone, Nick Foles has played for a lot of teams. And does it ever work out for him? No, but it might work for us.
So I think the most realistic options here is, and I'm saying realistic is like realistically the Jets would really try to do this because they think it would make their team better, and it's Jameis Winston or Kyler Murray. So the Kyler Murray one is weird because the Jets already traded for Aaron Rodgers, so they're not going to want to trade a bunch of stuff. Kyler is, I don't know what his contract details are. I know they're not good. I know this isn't his last year on the Cardinals, so it's not like they'd want to take him, like the Jets wouldn't want to take him as a rental, especially if rumored right now is that Rodgers is going to try to come back at age 41 next year and be fine. And Rodgers still has another year on the contract. So it's not like, okay, Rodgers is done with the NFL, but also like he tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
Like you just don't come back from that. So maybe you have Kyler Rodgers who's fighting for quarterback one spot next year. I don't know. Probably not, but who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think
I don't think that we've even seen. I don't think we've seen a high caliber NFL player come back from an Achilles. We've seen like Kevin Durant is like the only high profile athlete that's come back, and Kevin Durant can't play 72 games anymore. He can't play 60. So it's like, how on earth is like Aaron Rodgers or somebody going to be able to play on that? Kyler Murray is really interesting. And we were talking, I think, no, it wasn't with you. I was talking with another friend of mine today. Like, there's that clause that they put in where Aaron Rodgers had to start like a percentage of games this year, or the Packers don't get the pick from the Jets. So like the Jets might actually own a first round pick that could mean something. But I don't know if it's going to be enough for them to go get a Kyler Murray. And I think that's super interesting from a purely on paper of like plugging him in. But again, there's lots of personality issues. There's some leadership questions. Will Kyler Murray be able to play quarterback in November? Will his body hold up? Will the new Call of Duty be too much for him to say no to? Playoffs Call of Duty, who knows? So that's interesting. I pitched to you, Kirk Cousins, just like, hey, Vikings, you lost to Tampa Bay. What if you wanted to punt incredibly early on your season and just trade away your quarterback and then try to go get one of these like super high tier quarterback prospects and just tank your season away? Don't play Jefferson. And then like let your Jordan Addison kind of get some time. Rebuild through I don't know. That's such as dumb. Who knows? But like a Kirk Cousins, and maybe the Jets do actually make the Super Bowl. That's kind of what I was thinking. But I don't know how that would work out with salary cap. I don't know what on earth the Vikings would get out of it, other than the prospect of maybe getting to go get Caleb Williams or Drake May in April. So
yeah, So I'm reading. I mean, I'm trying to read through all the Kyler Murray stuff here too, just to make sure I understand it. He's on the PUP list, so he's on the physically unable to perform list and at least missed the first 4 games of the season. So we got 3 more he's missing. that is still with Zach Wilson theoretically. The Dallas Cowboys play the Jets, on Tuesday. The other thing here is that with Murray's contract, it has details until 2028. It looks like that the team who has Murray under contract has an out after 2027. But that's not like next year. And this all is really odd to me because, what's going to happen is that they're going to sign, basically is that, the Cardinals are going to sign Caleb Williams and go draft him after the season. Well, I don't necessarily know what they'd be doing that for because you still have Kyler for a couple of, no matter what you have him for 2024. Looks like after that, then the numbers become better for the Cardinals to cut him, but you'd want Kyler on your team next year. I don't get this.
If you're the Cardinals, they probably they got a new coach. I believe the GM has moved on as well, so they might be just like looking to completely clean slate and go get a Caleb Williams or a Drake May, and so in that case, getting anything back for Kyler Murray might be interesting, and they might be looking at, hey, the Jets need a quarterback. They've got this team that's incredible around, and all they need is a quarterback. And this might be your chance to get anything for him back and, get him off their books and then just start over with a whole new system, whole new quarterback next year. So, because they have their pick this year and they're going to have the Texans pick. The Texans are probably not going to win very many games. So this is a really good chance for them to go out and do this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes a lot like thinking through, the Cardinals probably don't want to go through the rest of this year with Kyler Murray. They want to have a bad pick. Kyler Murray might raise your floor up high enough that you end up winning a couple games you don't want to. So getting him off, getting him out of the building, getting start over and reset the culture with a Caleb Williams, like that all seems enticing. And maybe that's enough to sell him for pennies on the dollar and just get whatever you get back from the Jets is awesome. Who knows? But we'll see.
We'll see. All right. Well, let's talk about week 2 here as we end this one out. Let's talk about the game we're most looking forward to see. I did not know there are 2 Monday Night Football games coming up this next week, but I'll have hit you with a quick quiz question here.
Mm-hmm.
Which game is the cheapest to go to this spring weekend?
Ooh.
Any ideas? I can say it is not the game I thought it would be. Or maybe it is.
Well, is it Giants Cardinals?
It is, yeah, by $2. Yeah.
Let me go.
Tickets for $21. Go ahead and fly over to the Glendale, Arizona Stadium.
Man, that'd be kind of cool. Game I'm looking forward to the most. I think Jaguars Chiefs might be really interesting. Getting to see Trevor Lawrence is kind of pushing his way up. Like, hey, I deserve a lot of respect as like this up and coming quarterback. I'm on the same level as like Herbert, Burrow, Allen, if he's got his head on straight, Mahomes, and then Mahomes is that next tier. But Lawrence definitely seems to be one of the 5 most important quarterbacks in the league, maybe like 7, whatever. Going up against the Chiefs, I just feels like a really fun game, and we'll kind of get to see the Chiefs bounce back. We might get to see the Jaguars really assert themselves, do some interesting things because they had a really hard-fought game with the Colts. I think Jaguars Chiefs is the game I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, I got you. I'm going to differ just so I have a different answer, but I think that's the game of the week because it's 2 teams that are, both different. How you thought the week 1 would go, I thought Jacksonville would dominate the Colts, and I definitely thought Kansas City would win. I think the game that is biggest here is Minnesota Philadelphia. The Eagles should win this easily. It's at home. It's Thursday night. Minnesota lost week 1, weirdly enough, and it seemed odd, but yeah, I don't. Besides that, there's not a lot of great games on the slate here this weekend. I mean, Dolphins, Patriots, maybe. But yeah, there's a bunch of interesting games here coming up this weekend. Maybe Niners, Rams could be fun. Be fun to see SoFi.
Niners, Rams might be interesting.
Both teams are 1-0. See how it kind of looks there. That or the rookie quarterback battle of Colts Texans. But that's not going to be. Like, that's not going to be a ton of good football, I wouldn't say. No. So, yeah. Not a lot of teams that are like, 1-0 or 0-1 facing each other this week. And like Green Bay, Atlanta, Raiders, Bills. You know, I mean, you got Broncos and Commanders. Not a ton of great games this weekend. I mean, I would say Chargers at Titans, but I also think that could just be a snooze fest.
How fast do you think we see a new quarterback from? How fast do we think we see a new quarterback for the Titans? Because Tannehill had a horrible game on Sunday.
I think fairly quickly. I wonder why. I wonder why we haven't heard already that Tennessee is putting in a quarterback carousel here or doing some OSU related deal with having 3 quarterbacks, because they still have Malik Willis, I think is the name. They still have him on the roster. So yeah, we'll see. I mean,
So on Sunday, Will Levis didn't even suit up. It was just Malik Willis. So that I think Malik Willis is their number 2 with Will Levis as number 3. So not a great look for what was once considered a top 5 prospect.
Yeah, man, that is tough.
Doing too much mayo in his coffee.
I guess so. It can be fattening, is what people say. You switched up to light mayo, you know? I mean, I mean, Will Levis is apparently, speaking here, he is 12 pounds heavier than Ryan Tannehill, and they're the same height. So,
man,
yeah, both SEC schools, and Levis is 9 years younger than Tannehill. So he's not a young guy. He's the same age as Malik Willis, apparently. I mean, they're both 24. I don't know exactly what age both of them are, respectively. Who's older and younger, but they're both 24. I don't know. Titans, yeah, I could see I could see Tannehill not being the only quarterback the rest of the season. And definitely if things don't go well this weekend against the Chargers defense that I think looked pretty darn good just against an incredible Dolphins offense. I don't think the Chargers defense was that bad. There were a couple things that really hurt him. A Joey Bosa grab trying to get, Tua Tagovailoa to the ground, where instead Tua ducks his head, and basically then all Bosa could grab was his face mask. Like that was a penalty that was added on to the end of a big game. I mean, the Chargers were just not catching a break this past weekend, and I know every single fan sings the same song. I guess they'll keep doing it until it changes, because the Chargers just had horrible luck. I mean, they had intentional grounding play on their last drive, and it was just a very unfortunate deal. So I think with all being said here, yeah, I could see it being a real fun time this weekend here, Chargers Titans, and seeing if the Titans bring in both 0-1 teams. We'll say both 0-1.
Yeah, someone will get a win. Someone has to. Actually, I guess they could tie.
They could tie. NFL does have that ability. Yeah, they could both still be. One will be one way or another. There'll be another one next to somebody's name. It'll be in a tie. It'll be in a win, or someone will have a 1 added. No matter what. So
one way to look at it for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, Colton, as always, here, thanks for joining on the latest episode of the CJ Tour podcast. We're gonna try to do this every single week until the wheels fall off here, Colton. So thanks so much for joining. We'll be back again next week, fingers crossed, with another NFL podcast. All right. And Colton, thanks again for joining. Follow at the CJ Tour on Twitter and Instagram for more. And we'll catch you guys again soon.